Topic 1. What are your thoughts of Resident Evil's new theme in moving more towards a presumably first-person PT or Silent Hill type of survival horror game, as opposed to the previous installments' isometric or third-person style of gameplay? So it's not just talking about, you know, the different camera viewpoint, because the whole game as a whole, you know, has changed quite dramatically. But it, you know, it's discussing the significant move of, you know, from Resident Evil like 6 to what is essentially like an Outlast type of game. Also, I should say Vanessa is not joining us for this topic. She'll probably join us later in topic 2. So it's just me and Lou for now. So what are your thoughts on the new style, the Resident Evil demo?
It's certainly interesting and atmospheric. It makes you wonder why they have chosen to make this move, because it certainly is moving away from everything they've ever done.
Yeah, it is quite a massive departure, isn't it?
It's drastic, isn't it?
Mm.
It does feel to me like what they really hope to do is to grab up all the floating around Silent Hill fans.
Yeah, that is it, isn't it?
They're trying to gather them to their bosom.
It's like they had a briefing or whatever. They had a meeting. They're like, "Wow, right, what do we what do we do, Mr. CEO of Capcom?" It's like, we know that people like our old school stuff, like from back in the day, and we know people love that Silent Hill shit, and nobody's doing that at the moment. So it's like they've clearly thought, "Oh, we'll mix the two," and it's a shrewd business move, really, if you think about it, because Konami's not going to do another Silent Hill game, not anytime soon. Anyway, you're looking maybe never.
I have to say, I feel kind of betrayed by them. And if Resident Evil can do a good enough job, then great, because they've made me sad recently too. Resident Evil 6 made me cry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like they didn't really have a whole lot to lose in carrying on with a sort of Resident Evil 6 sort of mantra. Their only real options were to go back to Resident Evil 4 or go to like an old school isometric style, like, you know, 1, 2, 3, etc. But I think that would be too confusing for people's palates. You know, every company wants to get that young audience for some reason. They're clambering to get that sort of fucking, you know, like Call of Duty audience, which is why, you know, Resident Evil went off the rails, and there's no chance you're going to get them with like an isometric thing. It's just going to fuck with their heads too much, and they're probably not used to it like the older generations are, because we had, you know, our Onimushas and our Resident Evils and Dino Crisis, etc. So they're not used to it, you know. But
I don't think they could go truly back to that style, but
I think they could, but not in like a AAA like maybe like if they did, I'm not going to say indie because that doesn't make any sense for a company like Capcom, but you know, like a B tier game or whatever, like a £30 game or a, you know, $40 game or something. They could do it in that sense.
In their interests, really. But
I think they can make money off it.
I don't think it's about doing exactly the same thing. It's about capturing the feel of the originals, I think. And they moved away from so much. Puzzles were the main thing about Resident Evil. A lot of times you had an item and you didn't know what to do with it. You got to think it out, and that's been taken away.
The puzzles were good. I think part of it is that Resident Evil was about re-exploring the same area. They did that really well. Like the mansion, for example, is not that big a map really compared to, you know, a lot of games. Even games of its time, it wasn't like crazy huge. But they
made great use of a limited space by using backtracking effectively.
Yeah, it was an intelligent use.
That was their skill.
Yeah, of backtracking. So many games fail at that. It's often just so dull to backtrack. You know, because they just don't think it through properly. But Resident Evil is one of the best for that. Whereas they abandoned doing that, and they wanted to do the sort of Call of Duty push ahead mentality, always progressing forward. I mean, they did it to some respects in 5 and obviously in 4. But in 6, I don't recall. I don't even know if you backtrack at any point.
No, I don't think you really do.
And
no, very little.
And so it makes puzzles very hard, and they have to be immediate puzzles. And because they're immediate puzzles, it means you're probably going to solve them in about 5 minutes. Whereas you could have puzzles in the older Resident Evils, 1, 2, etc., where you're carrying around an item for a puzzle that you're not going to use for 5, 6 hours. Yeah, you put it in your little trunk, and you'll maybe like use it again, 5, 6 hours from now. And
and it forced you to think strategically. You could move ahead into a new area and then find that something that you put away you needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then you have to go back and get it. Or
stretched itself out nicely.
Yeah, it definitely got the most out of its game. It's kind of like a Dark Souls in that sense, where if you were to make a Dark Souls and take away the bonfires and the permadeath and made it like Onimusha, you breeze through that game in like a couple of hours, So it's making good use of its space, if you will. But moving on from that into the Silent Hill, even the Silent Hills were like that back in the day, and that's what this game does feel like to me. It feels like, at first I thought, oh, this is really trying to capture Outlast, like, because that's the basic view you get of it at first, but it's not really trying to do that Outlast thing. For me, it's definitely doing the PT thing. Everybody knows it's a fucking,
without doubt,
PT. I'm not gonna say clone, but very inspired by PT. I think they're going more for atmospheric as opposed to jump scares and the like. I mean, there are a couple, but it's more of an atmospheric thing. But I think what they're going to try and do moving forward is to have it like you were saying earlier, more towards the traditional Silent Hills, not in the sort of viewpoint. It's going to be, I'm pretty certain it's going to be first person, even in the main game, as aside from the demo.
It's not so much the looks, but the soul of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, the ambiance and the essence and everything. It feels like the atmosphere they're trying to build is Silent Hill, and I like how, I hope they carry this on through into the main game.
Fair,
how there's like Easter eggs.
Both franchises had gone astray, and if they can combine the best of the two, they might just come up with something fantastic.
Yeah. And the way I felt about it was this, like, it blew me away at E3. I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy, and it's going to be a VR game. It's like, it just blows your mind from what was, from such a massive departure from Resident Evil 6 to this. But then I wasn't too salty about it. I might have been if it had gone from like Resident Evil 4 to this, because I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? But Resident Evil 6 was tanked so bad, and it's not just, it's easy to like retrospectively jump on that bandwagon of, oh yeah, let's say how shit Resident Evil 6 was, but Resident Evil really was shit. We fucking hated it pretty much. Like we were playing it co-op, and it became just so frustrating.
Degraded. 4 was fantastic. 5 we enjoyed, although it wasn't great. We enjoyed it, didn't we?
It wasn't a survival horror game anymore. 6, it was an action game. But
6, 6.
The Leon section for me had promise, had potential.
I agree.
But the other two sections I cared less and less about. Like the bit with Wesker's son and Ashley, I couldn't give a fuck at all, for me personally. So it's such a massive departure, but and you might be angry about that, but I didn't feel that way, because 6 was so shit. It's like, where can you go from here? You can't really go much further down unless you include something like Umbrella Corps, which doesn't really count. But you can't go down from here, so the only way is up. So even something that's not
good for them to try something bold.
Yeah, I say fuck it, spin the roulette wheel, because you've got nothing to lose at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The only downside to it for me is that I wanted Resident Evil 4 back. I wanted that style of gameplay. I mean, the 1 and 2 are great, but it's like you're saying, it's like we were saying, I don't know if that can be translated to a modern audience. I mean, you can translate it to the old school people who've played the originals, but aside from nostalgia, I don't think you can translate that forward. But Resident Evil 4, I think you can carry that forward. But my hope with that is they're doing a Resident Evil 2 remake, I think it is.
Resident Evil 2.
not just a remaster. So my hope is that they take the Resident Evil 4 gameplay and use that in Resident Evil 2. So I think it's a remake, not a remaster.
The remake of 1 is pretty fun.
Yeah, but
it's well done.
From what I hear, this is more like a systematic from the ground up. I think they're essentially remaking it. I could be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what they're doing. But God knows when that's going to be. And the exciting thing about this is it's getting released Q1 of 2017. I think it was January you were saying yesterday, weren't it?
It said something about January, yeah.
Yeah,
so they've got to have
soon.
It pretty much in the bag by now. It's got to be
just
pretty
polishing,
complete at this point.
Polishing and maybe working on some DLC or something, you'd think. Which is smart. I mean, it's taking that whole Fallout 4 route of announce it and then bring it out in a few months. Like, that's smart. I mean, it's a little bit longer than the Fallout 4 announcement, but still, like, even if you think from E3, it can't be more than 6 months or something, 6-7 months, which is pretty short. Like, compared to what we usually have, which you can get announcements like 2 years in advance or more. So it's pretty good. But I mean, I'm not blown away by first person, and it's like we were talking yesterday about the combat. The combat in first person is difficult, especially melee combat. I mean, gun combat not so much. But
just obviously there was nothing to kill in the demo.
Yeah.
But just swinging the axe left me feeling a little vulnerable.
I don't know. I think personally, I think it felt playing a few first person games with melee weapons, like, I don't know, perhaps not translatable, but things like Rust and games of that sort. The melee felt quite good. I mean, it was just one weapon, and it felt quite good for that type of game, I should say. So I thought, that was pretty cool. But yeah, it is a little bit of a worry how that dynamic's going to go. And is it going to be mostly melee weapons, or are you going to have guns? How's that gonna work? How's the pacing going to go? Yeah. Because if they're going the survival horror route, which personally I hope they do, and that in terms of the mechanics of it, and they do use guns, which again I hope they do, the way to make it so it paces it out is if they make ammo really scarce.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
So that would
Use
be
it wisely.
A smart move, I think. Yeah, so if you make it like super scarce,
I think part of what they have intended for it is that you're not supposed to be a badass. You're supposed to be Joe every bloke.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. Because in Outlast,
that's not a bad thing.
You were just literally like a passenger.
You could run. You could run, and
you had a camera, and you were a little fraidy cat. So it's going to be interesting to see how combat mixes into this or whatever. But maybe it is more like Sorry, carry on.
It seems unlikely that it's going to be. I don't know how they could fit, lots of high action in there, loads of enemies.
Yeah, the pace would have to be slow.
I hope it's more subtle. But
if you think about Silent Hill, and even the original Resident Evil, there weren't that many bad guys, really. I mean,
no,
you don't get.
And something you had to learn about Silent Hill, which is not in a lot of other games, is you have to. When I play a game like that, I like to clear out all the enemies and have a look around. Silent Hill doesn't always let you do that. It wants you to run sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Conserve by making smart choices and sometimes running when you're outclassed, not trying to duke it out.
I think that's what they'll probably try and do with this. I think that's what will be the smart move, is to have moments where you are feeling like a bit of a badass and you're gunning down, I'd say zombies, but I don't know at this point what it is you're going to be shooting. I mean, we've got some theories on how we were like discussing yesterday, but it wants to make you think that it's like hillbillies and maybe like ghosts and shit, like little grudge girls. But our thoughts on it is, it is going to be traditional zombies. It's just they're dressing it up in a sort of more Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of route, as opposed to, just blatantly saying it's zombies, because it's always like what you don't know is always more scary than what you do. So I think it's I think throughout the game you'll sort of learn that it's more about zombies and stuff than it is
and
perhaps about.
From what we were seeing, we thought that the main thing that is worth keeping in mind is that what they're trying to do is
It's like
make it about the protagonist's perception.
yeah,
It's
it's
about
like
what he perceives, and it's not necessarily what's really happening.
yeah, it's like psychological. It's not
Mm.
everything that you see is to be believed. Some things may be fact, but some things may be like hallucinations and so forth. But the interesting thing is he's not supposed to be the main character, is he?
No,
I don't think the guy
no,
you play in the
I
demo
don't believe so.
or girl, who knows?
And the yeah, you don't know. The demo is not actually supposed to be any part of the main game. It's not going to be in
Here's
it.
the
It's
thing
not
with
going to be a
that.
section of it.
Are you sure about that? Because it says on the
Um,
screen the beginning hour, so unless
I
that's like
know that,
a prequel, like a lead up sort of thing.
but from what I've seen snippets here and there that are saying no, it's not actually part of the game. It's
Mm.
tied, but it's not. It's not necessarily.
Maybe it will happen simultaneously with what will happen with you in the main character with the first game. Is in it's happened. You could be like 10 miles away or whatever. That's happening there.
Mm,
Whatever's happening to you is happening elsewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? So and then
mm.
you could bump into them later in some respect.
Um,
So
we thought that would be really nice, didn't we? If they tie
mm,
it in well.
I think it's very interesting. And there's that whole finger key thing where um, that's going to come into play at
Mm.
some point, isn't it? What's the dealio with that?
Apparently,
Yeah, well,
people are people are not sure if they're gonna make an add-on to the demo or
mm,
just
it
put
look
relevance to it in the main game.
all signs point to with that Resident Evil Ambassadors thing. There's that picture, isn't there, that says I can't remember what it says,
Yes.
but it's like, please be patient, something coming in soon or something weird like that. So it's like
It's saying that yeah, you cannot use it yet. Be patient.
yeah.
Something's gonna happen with it.
But on the calendar in the background of that picture that all these items are on, like this finger on it and a key and etc., is September. So I'd imagine something will be coming in September. Whether that's a trailer or an update to the demo, which would be probably really clever, nobody really knows. But I think it's definitely
We thought it was interesting as well. When you look at the mannequin finger in the demo, it is quite
mm,
clearly plastic, segmented,
yeah.
joined, and yet in that image, it looks like a severed human finger.
Yeah, there's lots of blood and like appliances to cut your finger off. So it's like we were saying with the whole perception thing. Maybe everything isn't quite
Mm.
what it seems, which definitely could be interesting. I mean, I would if you'd have asked me before, I would have said I definitely would have preferred something like Resident Evil 4-esque or whatever. But I think this is
Mm.
interesting. I'd like to see them push forward with this. What I really liked about it is, and I really hope they keep this, is like the whole Easter eggs, all these little themes and all these
Mm.
little tricks that you can do. I mean, that comes from PT, really, doesn't it? But
Yes.
I hope they liberally spread them throughout the game, so you could play the game, but then if you did this weird little bizarre thing, or you found this lockpick down the side of a fucking cupboard or whatever, that opens up a new little section to the game, or a little path or ending or something that you didn't previously know, so it gives like constant replay
That's
value.
great though. I think what's missing in a lot of games is rewards for
Mm,
being OCD about things. I tend to
yeah,
overdo and have a lot of attention to detail when I play things like that.
yeah.
And it's great. You should be rewarded for poking about and thinking about things,
It's almost
not
like a
just
puzzle game in some
bashing
aspects,
through.
isn't it?
Yes,
And it goes into these
but that
puzzles. I
does
mean,
that does go a little bit to Resident Evil's
yeah,
roots.
yeah, exactly, which is great. I mean, it's
It
good
is.
to
It
see that.
seems like just a splicing of the two.
Yeah, it really does feel like that, doesn't it? It's
Mm.
um, Silent Hill smashed together with Resident Evil with an Outlast cherry on the top. That's basically
Mm.
it feels like
That
what we're
sounds
getting.
delicious.
Yeah, which does it after the fucking Resident Evil 6. Anything that can cleanse that palate, you know, it can't be that bad, really, can it? I mean,
No,
I
I've
am
got a little bit of
disappointed
hope.
without any news that what this Resident Evil 2 is going to be like, but I can always have a hope then that it will, feature that third person, sort of tight gameplay that, Resident Evil 4 and even Resident Evil 5. The gameplay in Resident Evil 5 was good if other
It was
things
not
were
bad,
lacking.
was it?
So, but yeah, I think the survival horror aspect, bring back that as well. I don't want to be charging through these rooms, gunning fools down like some fucking, action shooter. I want to be thinking, oh fuck, I've got 3 bullets in this revolver, and my trusty hatchet. What do I do now? Well, if I unlock this puzzle, maybe I can get that shotgun, but I've only got 2 shotgun shells, so is it worth it? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're the sort of internal monologues I want to be having, and stuff. But I think it's good. I think it's a positive step forward, if not the one I would have wanted, and certainly not the one I would have predicted. It's definitely a positive step forward. Now, I don't know how my piggy bank's going to be, because there's just so many good games coming out recently, but I hope that I can set aside enough to be able to afford it.
I think we're going to have to share it out and switch. Is the only answer.
I'd imagine at least one of us would get it, so we're both going to play it at some point.
I probably won't be able to help myself. I know I shouldn't sometimes, but it's like,
yeah,
it's, you could wait a few months and it will half in price, but you want it right away, because
you'll lose all that water cooler moment.
Some sucker will talk about it, and you'll come across something and have it spoiled for you.
Exactly. But also something we haven't really talked about, it's going to be in VR. Can you imagine playing it in VR? I mean, motion sickness aside, that would be fucking terrifying.
I would never pick it, I don't think. And I have heard whispers that people have been saying it's a particularly bad attempt at VR.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
They've been saying that they've been feeling quite ill from it.
I think a lot of the problem is, though, it's not... it's nowhere near optimized. Like, I don't... Like... The Morpheus, or whatever the fuck it's called, PlayStation VR, it's not out yet, so they haven't patched it into the demo properly. So they made the kitchen, which is a well-known VR demo. I don't think there was issues with motion sickness in that, but obviously that's a very small sort of proof of concept or whatever. So I would hope that they can optimize it beforehand, but there were major glare issues, like apparently playing it in VR, presumably at places like E3 and events and such. The crouch didn't work in terms of the VR. So when you duck down, or in real world, I think it just snapped down like you pressed the circle button. That was fucking people up. The motion sickness. I think that was a big deal, and the frame rate's probably in the toilet as well, because this might be part of the reason why they were trying to push Neo ahead, but that's a different discussion for a different day, because if you put the price of Neo combined with the price of the VR headset, Morpheus, whatever you want to call it, that's $800. I don't know what that would be in pounds, maybe £650 or something. It's
quite a lot.
That's suddenly a massive investment, and I personally, someone who suffers from motion sickness, couldn't get on board with that. So
no. But the other thing is, however, even if it was the best thing ever, my heart can't take playing horror games in VR.
No, I don't think I could either.
I have to be honest. I know I would be a coward when it comes to it. I love playing horror games, and I play a lot. But I like to be able to pause it and go and think about something else for a little while. It's like you say, in your face. It sounds terrifying.
Yeah,
It'd probably be great for some other types of games, but
I'm not a huge horror.
It's not for me.
Horror person, really, in particular. I like a few survival horror games, and there's a lot of good ones and stuff. But I just don't know. It would just be, if you're in that world, how would you really react, you'd be shitting your pants, wouldn't you? It'd be like, even though you know it's not real and you can take your headset off, I think it would just fuck with your head. Because
it's not for me.
It's way worse than just turning off the lights, isn't it? Like late at night, it's like 3-4 times worse than that. So, yeah. But anyway, I think we're in agreement that it's if a fucking curveball, it's you know, a positive move forward for Resident Evil from the dog turd that was Resident Evil 6. So I think at the very least we can say that. Although we've not played it yet, it might be shit. But from the demo, just going from that, if it does carry through, and I think the game's going to be very similar to that. Yeah, it's a positive step forward.